You're listening to Graphic Novel Explorers Club podcast, an audio book club.
Greetings, explorers. I'm one of your hosts, Johnny, joined by
Dennis
and
Jake.
Today we are discussing Cosmic Ghost Rider Destroys Marvel History by writers Nick Giovannetti and Paul Scheer. We hope you've read today's title because all three of us have read the book, so beware spoilers ahead. Explorers can share their opinions and thoughts with us by leaving a comment on our Facebook page or over on Twitter and Instagram at GN Explorers Club. Graphic Novel Explorers Club is available wherever fine podcasts are found, including YouTube. So, Cosmic Ghost Rider Destroys Marvel History. I kept calling it Ghost Rider Destroys Marvel Universe when we were all talking behind the scenes. So, I'm glad you guys found the right book because I kept screwing up the title. As I said, it's written by Nick Giovannetti and Paul Scheer. These two work together a lot. They've written several things together, but he's written several of the Spider-Man, Deadpool books. And then Paul Scheer, we all know from the podcast How Did This Get Made and Unspooled, Human Giant, The League, NTSF, SD, SUV, Crush of the Boat, Black Monday, and the Archerio Paul Show. Did you guys ever watch any of those on YouTube? Archerio Paul?
No, I don't think so.
That was just him doing old, like almost like verbatim.
Arsenio Hall.
Yeah, I do remember seeing a clip of that.
They're pretty good. The Steven Seagal one. That one, watch the Archerio Paul Steven Seagal show and then go back and watch the original. And you're like, because the first time you see it, the Archerio Paul one, you're like, he wasn't this way. There's no way. And then you go back and you watch the role and you're like, oh, he was that fucking out of his head. Full of his ego. And then Scheer and Giovannetti also co-wrote Aliens versus Parker, which they describe, or it's been described as Shaun of the Dead meets Galaxy Quest. And I really want to read this one. We got to read this one later. Have you guys heard of that one, Aliens versus Parker?
I have not.
No, I got to check that out.
I don't know if that's an ongoing series or if it's wrapped up. And then the Cosmic Ghost Rider Destroys Marvel History. This is covering issues 1 through 6, but it seems like it's the whole series. It was a limited series.
Yeah, I don't know how much more of the shtick you can actually do, to be perfectly honest.
And what's the, so I've never read a Ghost Rider comic. This is my first one. What's the difference between Ghost Rider and Cosmic Ghost Rider?
Huge. So basically, Ghost Rider's been several different individuals, but this one in particular is Frank Castle, who is obviously the Punisher, but also imbued with cosmic powers. All of that has caused him to go basically a bit nuts and a little bonkers. And I find him a lot more hilarious, obviously, than the regular Punisher, and more hilarious than the regular Ghost Rider. So the combination of the two of them, which Punisher is combined with some other individuals before. There's also one where he has the mind of Doctor Strange in his head, and he basically summons magical machine guns and fires magic bullets, which is pretty amazing. His attitude and the writing just dovetails. It's perfect. If you've ever read the original Cosmic Ghost Rider run, it's perfectly in tone with the other tales of a series. Mm-hmm.
I wasn't expecting this to be as funny as it is.
Oh yeah, no, totally. You don't take Cosmic Ghost Rider seriously. He's very much like Lobo in that sense, where he's just kind of bonkers.
Not knowing a lot about this book and what I was getting myself into, like I didn't really know the personality of Cosmic Ghost Rider, but when I first read the back and saying that it was the Punisher had now been kind of taken over by Ghost Rider, and just that to me seemed like such a kind of far out there premise. It kind of set the tone for, I don't know, I guess the absurdity of what you were going to experience in this book. And that's the thing that I really enjoyed, is not knowing what I was getting myself into in terms of reading this. Like I could just jump right in, and just the combination of those two characters just kind of put it on a level where I was like, all right, you don't really have to explain too much about this. I'm just on board with this. Is going to be nuts. So like strap in and let's go.
And really, I mean, you take two serious characters, Punisher and Ghost Rider, usually not characters who are humorous, and then you create this bonkers, Deadpool level character who I actually enjoy more than Deadpool. I know that's sacrilegious for some people, but I find the Cosmic Ghost Rider to be a lot more hilarious.
Yeah, it was really, really funny. My only knowledge of Frank Castle really is from those couple of Punisher movies that came out, a decade ago. I've never read and Archie meets Punisher. So I thought it was going to be like this a more serious take on it. And I thought Paul Scheer being involved, it might have some humor into it. I did not expect the level of ridiculousness that's in this book.
Oh, there were several times where I laughed out loud. Like it was that funny. I mean, also knowing that Paul Scheer was involved in the writing, I was like, okay, like there's going to be a funny kind of take on it.
This is the type of book I enjoy. I force myself to read some regular Cowls and Capes stories, but really this is what I like. It plays with the history I already know and kind of makes fun of the genre and some of the tropes and some of the well-treaded stories. And I just enjoy these type of stories a lot more than just the regular, here's the 19th time.
Yeah, another stupid fucking battle.
Right.
One of the things I really liked that they did was at the end of the book is they gave you a reference for where all the stories were pulled from, like all the history stuff. I was like, oh, thank you for doing this. Nobody ever does this when they do these like semi-historical books that run through different histories of Marvel or DC, whatever the publisher is. But like they actually put little paragraph recaps of everything with the image at the back. I was like, thank you. Fucking finally somebody did this.
Yeah, that was great. I mean, I did appreciate in the book where there were several instances where, it
was that a burp.
Yeah,
burp beginning.
It was. It's a quality mic.
Because your went a little. It was all.
Yeah. So what I appreciated was even in the story, they'd have a little asterisk and it would say like, no, this really happened in terms of like the stories that they picked out. And, the part where the Hulk was hiding out as a quote unquote robot strongman in the circus. And, they said something like, well, yeah, that actually did happen in the story. But then later on, when you finish it and they give the blurb about each little storyline that they kind of picked and kind of why they picked from it, I really enjoyed that.
Yeah, it added another just like depth to the story. Like it added some more value to reading it. I was like, oh, they took the time to do this. So the book starts off with a great little explanation for it. It just gives you a perfect end. It starts out with Frank Castle was a decorated Marine and upstanding citizen when his family was killed in a mob hit. And that's basically the premise of the story is Frank Castle. I mean, this is, I guess it's canon basically from what you were saying, Dennis, is he has all these adventures and then he decides to go back to the moment when his family's going to be killed the day before actually and try to prevent that. And that's sort of the crux of the story is, well, can you something that seems so insignificant is actually a major linchpin in the Marvel universe through its history. And that's sort of basically what the story is about is can he actually change his particular history? Because he fucks with history throughout the story. But this particular moment when his family dies is much more important than he realizes. So anyways, from that day forward, he led a one-man war on crime as the Punisher until he died. And then he returned as Ghost Rider, Spirit of Vengeance. And then he became Galactus's Herald. And then he became the Black Right Hand of Thanos. And then he died and went to Valhalla. And attempting to right Thanos' wrongs, Frank returned once more, going back in time to kill baby Thanos. Instead, he raised him. But Thanos still turned out horrible. So Frank went back yet again to return baby Thanos where he found him. Now Frank is stuck in the past. God help us all. And I was like, okay, I'm in. As soon as I started reading, I was like, I'm in.
No, that was definitely the best way to set this up. And again, especially from my perspective, not having a whole lot of the backstory, I was like, all right, I'm game on. I'm on board. I know this is kind of, getting into the weeds of it, but like just how the arrows were like the dialogue boxes had arrows to the next one. And just, I don't know. It just made that whole sequence of events, how it compounded on itself, just that much funnier to me.
Yeah, those 7 panels that just basically get you up to speed on. This is your, like me, this is my first Punisher story. It got me through his history really fast.
Yeah, especially it recapped Cosmic Ghost Rider, the initial run, really well, and I highly recommend that one, just because it's fascinating. You see a little preview of it, but basically one of the possible universes is where Thanos basically adopts the Punisher's whole motif in terms of like his code, everything, his uniform, and considers Frank Castle his dad, and shapes the entire Earth to be like how Frank Castle would want it, which turns out to be a nightmare society, obviously.
Yeah, so this is one thing I didn't realize was like he's traveled so much. He's like what 2 million years old by the time he reaches his family in the story, right? Is that right?
I don't remember how old he was exactly.
I think that there's something about 2 million years where I think he was waiting for something like that, where he had been waiting 2 million years to try to save his family.
That's a long time not to not get some closure.
When you're a cosmic entity, time is meaningless.
Yeah, I guess so. So the story starts off with him. Yeah, basically Frank no longer looks like himself. Really, he's got like long white hair. He's sort of like Gandalf the White, only Punisher the White. and he goes to his old house the day before his family dies, and he meets his wife, and quickly she trusts who he is. Like if someone was like showed up and was like, "Hey, I'm your husband's uncle," I'd be like, "Okay, well, I need to leave. So do you mind watching my son? Because I gotta go pick up my daughter." And that's basically what she does. No proof of who this person is. I thought that was a little, I don't know. I was like, okay, it fits within this ridiculous story, I guess. But I mean, we don't have to get too far into this story. It's basically a very simple story of him trying to protect his family and kind of his past self. But he's a war veteran who kind of become distant from his wife and his kids, and the future him comes back to like try and protect himself a little bit more and tries to guide himself into like, hey, your family is here for you. And then he sort of regales each person in his family with a different way he sort of created the Marvel history. The wife gets a Spider-Man story, the son gets a Fantastic Four story, the daughter gets X-Men story, and then Frank himself gets sort of like the Avengers story.
Yeah, and I liked how unique when he went back in time, how they made the art look old.
Yeah,
with the texture and the gradients, and it definitely felt like you were going back in time, so to speak. And then the art styles and everything.
My favorite things in this story is when Peter. He's quite entrenched in the early days of Peter Parker. When he goes back in time, has been there for some very climactic and important parts of the Marvel history. And one of them was when Peter Parker decides to stop being Spider-Man, when he quits being Spider-Man. And this is like his busted logic is, oh, well, I'll hire some guys to beat up an old man that looks like Uncle Ben, which I guess was a real plot point in one of the Spider-Man books. And that basically gets Spider-Man or Peter Parker interested in becoming Spider-Man again. And I was like, that's such a busted perfect logic of like, yeah, this is how I'll do it.
Yeah, I think there were a lot of references to the whole scenario where he became the Herald of Galactus. I really enjoyed the discussions between those three, like the Silver Surfer, how he was always like trying to suck up to Galactus, and he just didn't like that, but he completely bought into Cosmic Ghost Rider's philosophy. He's like, I like the way that you think, and it made the Silver Surfer very jealous of that relationship, and that was pretty funny.
Yeah, one of my favorite scenes was when he had taken over the Phoenix powers in the X-Men storyline. And then in the traditional X-Men storyline, Jean Grey had become the Black Queen. She was brainwashed and become the Black Queen for the Hellfire Club. Well, because he was now in her place, they brainwashed him and made him the Black Queen. and forced him to wear the same outfit she wore,
Yeah.
which was like these, this black, like, I don't know, leather,
Dominatrix leather
looking
thing.
outfit.
Looked like Dr.
Yeah.
Frankenfurter.
Yeah.
Yeah, there's a lot of callbacks to like pop culture stuff. So maybe that was like a Dr. Frankenfurter homage, because there's another time where he goes in to rob a bank and he calls out Robert De Niro's character. He calls out by name when they're from Heat. He uses that name in there. So I bet you that was done on purpose.
Well, yeah, because that was one of the jokes that they explained further on in the back, where one of the people was dressed up like a clown, and it was the clown from Quick Change, Bill Murray's character.
Yeah. Which I'm sure Paul Scheer is a fan of that movie. I love that movie when I was young, and I think he's about the same age as all of us too.
And the crying on the inside clown.
Yeah, it's sort of a hidden gem of the Murray movie canon. I also love his super quick fix for the Clone Saga, the Spider-Man Clone Saga. And he makes him just go move to Canada. It's gonna be a lot easier for everyone. You already got the hockey hair for it. I also like when Uatu, the Watcher, is that how you say his name?
I think so.
There's an homage to Mice and Men when he basically kills the Watcher and he makes him look at the stars and then he shoots him in the head. Sort of like when Lenny gets shot in the head of Mice and Men.
Yeah, I always liked the Watcher. He's one of my favorite characters.
So is to kind of circle back on something, is Cosmic Ghost Rider part of the regular Marvel 616 universe, or is it part of like the Ultimate Universe? Or
he's not part of the Ultimate Universe. To be perfectly honest, I don't know how he fits into that kind of canon in terms of the 616, because I believe the regular Punisher exists. So this might be just an alternate universe. I guess I should have checked on that. I always pick these things as I assume alternate universes because it's so batty and out of there. So this must be its own universe in itself.
Yeah, I guess it doesn't really fit within What If, because it doesn't posit. It's like a bunch of what ifs.
Well, the difference, I like the fact that, I mean, even though that it's out of its mind crazy, it still tries to weave through an already established kind of universe. And I really like those types of stories, or when they take something that has already been established and then kind of work a story into it. Now, like kind of like Dogma, like also kind of why I appreciate Rogue One in how it kind of takes, the sequences from
New Hope
and already established like timelines and kind of major events, and then kind of weaves the interconnective tissue between those, and I really like that.
No, I agree. That's partially why I'm in favor of all the what ifs, because it takes your expectations, it utilizes your established knowledge, and then allows you to basically play around in your own kind of like sandbox regarding it.
Well, but the difference between like this and like the what ifs are kind of their own little compartmentalized story, and it just kind of does something completely different than what already happened. Whereas this, it still tries to, I don't know, enhance, I guess might be the word, but what has already happened. Like, so instead of, it's not like, what if the Fantastic Four actually just, got cancer instead of superpowers? Or
it's like I recently watched The Phantom Menace, and I didn't realize, I don't know how I didn't catch this, or maybe I forgot, was when they basically, the sitting chancellor, when they're like, hey, vote of no confidence in this guy, let's basically a recall. And Padme was like, well, who was talking to Palpatine, who we was bad, but it was like, who are the three people that are up for the seat of the president, basically? And he's like, well, me, Bail Organa, and then this other person. And it's like, oh, well, that would be a good what if. It was like, well, what would have happened if Bail Organa had been elected instead of Palpatine?
Right.
Like, how would the that Star Wars history have changed. Like that would have been a good what if.
What if in the Star Wars universe?
Yeah. Well, I mean, they're all owned by Disney, so they could do it now.
I was saying it's about to happen.
Well, to wrap up here, do you guys recommend the book?
For me, yeah, absolutely. I love Cosmic Ghost Rider. I like the humor of the character. For me, it actually rivals that of Deadpool. I enjoy the character actually more for whatever reason.
And Deadpool did have some great cameos in this as well, too.
He's not annoying.
Yes.
And he was called out like a good, like, I try to insert myself in time all the time. He's like, can you break the fourth wall? And he's like, I don't know what you're talking about. He's like, all right, good.
I still got that.
Yeah, I think Deadpool felt a little like, hey, you're stepping on my turf here.
Yeah,
for sure. Well, there's the whole Deadpool kills Marvel universe, and he actually jumps multiple Marvel universes in an attempt to kill every universe. And at one point, he actually enters our universe where there's writers in an attempt to kill them to fully destroy Marvel.
That's pretty good. What about you, Jake?
Definitely. Not knowing a lot of the backstory or any of these stories from the beginning, the ones that they actually kind of touched on, it was very enjoyable to go back and see like, oh, that really happened.
Yeah.
And just kind of being able to kind of poke fun at the whole universe. I mean, because there are some issues of like X-Men where it's like, they're not fighting, Magneto or anything like that. They're like, doing chores or like going grocery shopping, and to have that much of the universe and just pick these stories out. It was cool to see like things that I would not have the patience to go back and, really to read all of these individual stories, but to kind of now have an idea of them was fun. And to do it in a way that was clever and made me laugh and, and not taking itself too seriously was really a fun read.
Speaking of mundane Marvel stories, we do these grab bag episodes. Although now that the record store we got these from is no longer, they went under last year. So who knows if we'll be able to do another grab bag. But one of them was a Marvel book and Marvel book. Of course, Avengers book. Sorry, thanks. And the whole story was basically a meeting about who's going to do what. It was like a logistics meeting. And then later, the Scarlet Witch and Vision, I think, went on a date, or somebody went on a date. It was
They were stuck in an elevator.
Yeah,
remember?
Stuck in an elevator.
Meeting, they were in an elevator, and they didn't know what to do. And certain characters were bailing, and and then Jarvis was worried because they were out of a certain coffee or something like that.
And Dennis very succinctly put it. Could you imagine if you were a 10-year-old and you paid a couple bucks for this and this was your fucking Avengers story? Cool. Dennis, where can people follow the podcast if they want to do that?
You can follow us on Twitter and Instagram at GN Explorers Club.
Cool. Thanks for listening, and we'll see you next episode.
Later.
We're getting on them night moves.
Oh, those night moves.
Ooh, those night moves.